Chapter 1. The Shimmering Mirage. The Adarix Desert was a place where time itself seemed to unravel, stretching endlessly across the horizon in golden waves that shimmered under the oppressive glare of twin suns. For centuries, it had swallowed countless secrets, legends, and relics, concealing them beneath layers of heat-bleached sand and whispered myths. Elias Harrow, a seasoned explorer whose life had been shaped by obsession and tenacity, stood at the edge of a vast dune sea, his eyes narrowing against the blistering wind that carried fine grains of sand like whispers of forgotten epics. His gear was battered and dust-stained, the result of days spent trekking through this barren wilderness, guided only by cryptic star maps and fragments of old transmissions. Yet, despite the exhaustion clawing at his muscles and the blistering heat burning his skin, there was an electric thrill coursing through his veins, the thrill of the unknown, of discovery, of the edge where legend and reality collided. Elias had spent years chasing tales of an ancient civilization rumored to have mastered technologies far beyond modern comprehension, a race that had vanished in a cataclysmic event eons ago, leaving behind scattered fragments of their once glorious empire. These fragments were whispered to lie buried deep beneath the Adarix sands, lost to time and memory, waiting for a worthy hand to uncover them. His boots crunched against the compacted sand as he pushed forward, the shimmering horizon warping beneath the heat haze, until a sudden glint caught his eye, a flash of metal that seemed impossibly out of place amidst the organic monotony of the desert. His breath caught in his throat as he stepped closer, heart pounding with a mixture of hope and disbelief. There, half buried beneath the sand, was the unmistakable curve of a ship's hull. It was massive, too large for anything terrestrial, and its surface was unlike any metal Elias had seen before. It gleamed with a smooth, almost liquid finish, reflecting the harsh sunlight in waves that distorted the air around it like a mirage. The hull was etched with intricate patterns and symbols that pulsed faintly with an iridescent blue glow, as if the ship was not merely a lifeless machine, but a creature suspended between worlds, still breathing beneath the desert's crushing weight. The air around the craft felt charged, humming softly, a vibration that resonated deep within Elias's bones and whispered promises of mysteries beyond imagination. Approaching the ship, Elias's fingers traced the surface, marveling at the craftsmanship and the subtle warmth that emanated from the metal despite the searing heat. The alien glyphs under his fingertips shimmered, flickering like constellations in a night sky, their meaning tantalizingly just beyond his grasp. His pulse quickened as he noticed a barely perceptible seam in the hull and access panel cleverly disguised within the complex patterns. With a careful, deliberate motion, he activated the panel, and the surface rippled like liquid mercury, parting to reveal a hidden compartment within the belly of the ship. A soft, melodic hum filled the air as the compartment opened, revealing not rows of circuitry or weaponry, but a translucent crystalline sarcophagus suspended in a matrix of pulsing energy. The sarcophagus contained a figure, unmistakably alive or perhaps in a state between life and death. It was humanoid but distinctly alien, tall and slender, with elongated limbs and skin that shifted in subtle shades of pale silver and blue, like moonlight on water. Its eyes were closed, yet beneath the crystal's surface, there was a faint flicker, a rhythmic pulse that suggested consciousness. Elias felt a wave of awe and trepidation wash over him. This was no ordinary relic. It was a living message from a civilization lost to the stars, a sentinel preserved through time. He realized then that his discovery was far greater than any technology or artifact. It was a being, a key to unlocking mysteries that humanity had only dreamed of. As Elias studied the controls embedded in the compartment's edge, strange symbols and scripts flickered to life, responding to his touch with a language that seemed to penetrate directly into his mind rather than his eyes. The ship, it seemed, was intelligent, aware, and perhaps even willing to communicate. A sudden surge of energy pulsed through the ship's frame, and the air thickened with an electric charge as the sarcophagus began to glow brighter, casting shimmering reflections across the desert sands. Elias hesitated, heart pounding with anticipation and fear. What would awaken within that crystalline prison? What secrets, what dangers, What wonders awaited in the shadows of this ancient vessel? The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the dunes as Elias prepared to breach the final veil between man and mystery. In that moment, he understood the weight of what he had found, not just a spaceship buried beneath the desert, but a doorway to the stars, to otherworldly knowledge and life itself. The desert around him held its breath, waiting, as the line between past and future, between technology and life, began to blur into a singular, extraordinary moment. The desert winds whispered relentlessly, tossing fine grains of sand into the air, painting the sky in a muted haze that softened the twin suns' brutal glare. Elias, crouched beside the sarcophagus, felt the ship's strange energy ripple beneath his fingertips as he worked to decipher the enigmatic control panel. The interface was not like any he had encountered before. It was not a tactile screen nor a set of buttons, but an intricate lattice of bioluminescent patterns that seemed alive, reacting to his presence and thoughts. The ship's systems were awakening, slow and deliberate, as if rousing from a cosmic slumber. Lines of alien script flowed and shimmered in his mind, translating themselves into vivid images and emotions, memories of stars, forgotten wars, and a civilization's desperate hope for survival. Elias's heart pounded with a mixture of awe and unease. The being inside the crystalline capsule, this ethereal figure, was far more than a preserved relic. It was a consciousness, bound in stasis by technology that blurred the lines between biology and machine. As the sarcophagus glow intensified, he could almost feel a faint pulse, a heartbeat that transcended the organic and mechanical alike. The desert seemed to fall away, the distant roar of the wind replaced by a profound silence, as though the very universe was holding its breath in anticipation. A sudden flicker of movement caught Elias's eye. The alien figure's eyes, large and luminous like twin moons, fluttered open beneath the crystal's surface. They shimmered with an ancient intelligence, swirling with colors that defied earthly description, hues of violet and emerald, intertwined with patterns that seemed to shift and flow like living galaxies. The gaze was penetrating, not just seeing but reaching inside Elias's very soul. A rush of emotions flooded his mind: curiosity, fear, longing, and a deep, unspoken plea for understanding. In that moment, Elias realized he was not just an explorer. He was a chosen witness to a story written across millennia, a story of survival, sacrifice, and a desperate hope that had traversed the void of space to rest here, beneath the merciless desert sun. The being inside the pod, her presence began to stir in earnest. The crystal that had encased her shimmered and fractured, dissolving like morning mist to reveal delicate features framed by flowing strands of silver-blue hair that seemed to pulse with bioluminescence. Her skin reflected the desert twilight, shifting in subtle gradients, as if alive with the memory of distant stars. As she slowly sat upright, her movements were fluid, graceful, and utterly foreign, like a dance performed on the edge of reality and dream. Elias could barely breathe, overwhelmed by the sheer otherness of her presence, yet compelled by an undeniable connection that transcended language and species. "Who are you?" Elias whispered, though the words felt inadequate to encompass the vastness of the moment. Instead of answering aloud, a voice echoed inside his mind, soft, melodic, and imbued with a depth of knowledge beyond comprehension. "I am Leora," the voice said, filling his thoughts with images of a civilization that had harnessed the power of stars, whose technology was inseparable from life itself. "I am the last of the Ethrians, guardians of knowledge and keepers of the celestial balance. Our world fell to ruin, cast into shadow by the greed of those who sought to enslave the cosmos. I was sent to preserve what remained of our essence, to protect the future by hiding in the sands until the time was right." Elias felt the weight of her message settle in his heart, like a star collapsing into a black hole. This was no mere archaeological find. This was a beacon, a bridge between forgotten past and uncertain future. His discovery was the key to awakening a legacy that could alter humanity's place among the stars forever. But with this knowledge came a daunting question. If Leora had survived the fall of her people, what dangers still lurked beyond the desert? What forces had hunted the Ethrians into extinction, and would Elias's act of awakening her bring salvation or destruction? as the desert night deepened, casting long shadows that merged with the glowing ship. Elias and Leora shared the fragile beginning of an alliance, one forged not from words, but from the unyielding human spirit to explore, understand, and endure. The desert's cold stars twinkled overhead, silent witnesses to a moment when history, technology, and life intertwined, setting into motion a saga that would ripple through the galaxies. Let me know if you want me to continue further or start Chapter 2. Understood. Here is the start of Chapter 2 of Desert Explorer unlocks a spaceship's hidden compartment, but what he finds isn't just technology, with long, detailed, immersive paragraphs. Due to platform constraints, I'll begin with a very substantial portion here and continue in following messages until it exceeds 18,000 characters. Chapter 2, Awakening Beneath the Sands. The first night after Leora's awakening was like stepping into a new dimension where the boundaries between time, space, and reality blurred into a tapestry of wonder and unease. Elias Harrow sat cross-legged on the sand, the desert chill creeping beneath his worn clothes, but his mind was ablaze with 1,000 questions and possibilities that defied rest. The ancient ship's systems hummed steadily, the bioluminescent panels casting soft blue-green light over the dunes as if the vessel itself were a slumbering leviathan beneath the desert stars, now stirring from a millennia-long sleep. Leora sat nearby, fragile and yet radiant, her eyes reflecting constellations unknown to Earth's night sky, and a presence that felt both alien and profoundly alive. She was no mere survivor, but a living archive, a conscious vessel of a civilization lost to cosmic oblivion. Despite the profound silence of the desert night, the air was thick with the weight of unspoken history. Elias found himself captivated, his usual practiced skepticism dissolving in the face of this extraordinary encounter. As Leora's story unfolded, it was not conveyed through words, but through an intricate weaving of thoughts and emotions transmitted directly into his mind. Images, sensations, flashes of memories so vivid they seemed more like reliving than recounting. She revealed the rise and fall of the Ethrians, a race that had mastered the art of symbiosis between organic and synthetic life. Their civilization had thrived for millennia on the energy of stars, forging a harmony between technology and nature that made them custodians of cosmic balance. But with such power came envy and fear. Rival empires, driven by greed and the lust for domination, had waged devastating wars, seeking to unravel the Ethrian secrets and bend them to their will. The fall was swift and brutal, a cataclysmic event that shattered worlds and scattered survivors across the stars. Leora's mission had been desperate and solitary. She had been placed into stasis within this ship, hidden beneath the shifting sands of Adarix, programmed to awaken only when a worthy soul unlocked the vessel's ancient seals. Elias, driven by curiosity and the unyielding spirit of discovery, had become the harbinger of a new epoch. Yet, the awakening was fraught with peril. The same forces that had extinguished her people still hunted across the galaxy, shadowed threats lingering like vultures waiting to prey on anything that dared to rise. The ship's long-dormant sensors flickered to life, probing the surrounding space, scanning for signs of danger. Elias watched as holographic star charts unfolded in midair, pinpointing distant systems, forgotten alliances, and warning beacons blinking with urgent red pulses. In those hours, as the desert's cold embrace wrapped around them, a bond began to form between man and alien, each drawn by the profound loneliness of their respective journeys. Elias, a mortal explorer shaped by hardship and wonder, found in Leora a mirror of his own quest and eternal yearning for connection, understanding, and a place among the stars. She, in turn, saw in him the resilience and tenacity of a species that had barely begun to reach beyond its cradle. Together, they began to unravel the ship's mysteries. The vessel itself was a marvel of bioengineering, a fusion of living tissue and intricate machinery that pulsed with a rhythm akin to a heartbeat. The walls shimmered with iridescent hues, and the corridors seemed to breathe and shift subtly, adapting to their presence. Ancient glyphs adorned every surface, revealing layers of history, technology, and philosophy woven into the very fabric of the ship. Elias's hands trembled as he interfaced with the ship's controls, guided by Leora's telepathic instructions. Together, they activated the navigation systems, uncovering a hidden data archive that spanned eons, a chronicle of the Ethrians' voyages, discoveries, and final days. The knowledge was overwhelming. Star maps that detailed uncharted galaxies, technologies that bent the laws of physics, and warnings of cosmic phenomena that threatened all life. But amid the marvels lay a chilling truth. The cataclysm that had decimated Leora's people was not a natural disaster, but an orchestrated assault by a coalition of empires known as the Clithery, a relentless force bent on universal conquest. Their agents had scoured the galaxy for survivors, extinguishing any spark of resistance. As dawn approached, Elias realized the gravity of their situation. The ship's reactivation had likely sent ripples through the galactic network signals that could attract allies, but just as surely, enemies. Leora's survival was a beacon, a promise of hope, and a target for annihilation. Together, they faced a daunting choice: retreat into the desert's silence to await rescue, or unlock the full potential of the ship and confront the dangers that lurked in the void. Elias's gaze drifted to the horizon, where the twin suns rose like blazing sentinels, casting long shadows over the dunes. In that light, he felt the weight of responsibility settle over him. He was no longer merely an explorer uncovering relics. He was a guardian of a legacy that could reshape the fate of countless worlds. In the days that followed, Elias and Leora worked tirelessly to awaken the ship's systems. The vessel, once inert and silent, began to hum with renewed vitality, its engines flickering to life, ready to traverse the stars once more. Leora shared knowledge of the ship's capabilities, a living ark designed not just for travel, but for preservation and defense. Its hull could withstand cosmic storms and weaponry far beyond anything Elias had imagined, while its core housed a biotechnological intelligence capable of adapting and evolving in real time. More astonishingly, the ship could interface with Leora, amplifying her consciousness and granting her access to ancient powers thought lost. Yet, amid the wonder, a persistent shadow loomed. Through the ship's sensors, faint traces of Clithery vessels were detected far beyond the desert's edge, their presence like a storm gathering on the horizon. These hunters had been tracking the vessel for centuries, waiting for any sign of its activation. Their arrival would bring destruction, not only for Elias and Leora, but for the fragile hope their discovery represented. Elias's mind raced with strategies and plans, each weighed against the uncertainty of survival. Could humanity, with its nascent spacefaring capabilities, stand alongside the legacy of the Ethrians against such a formidable foe? Or would the desert sands swallow their secret once more? As he pondered these questions, Elias felt a surge of determination unlike anything before. The desert, with its merciless heat and silent expanse, had revealed a story written among the stars, a story that was now his to carry forward. Together with Leora, he would unlock the secrets of the ship, awaken its dormant power, and face whatever darkness awaited beyond the sands. The journey had only just begun, and the fate of worlds hung in the balance. Chapter 3: The Echoes of War and the Burden of Choice. The vastness of space had never felt so heavy, so palpably fraught with tension, as the moment Elias and Leora finally lifted off from the Adarix desert, leaving behind the sands that had concealed so much mystery and pain. The ancient ship, a living cathedral of biotechnological wonders, responded to Leora's consciousness as though awakening from an eternal dream, its organic metallic hull flexing and shimmering like a creature stretching after centuries of sleep. Inside the bridge, the ambient light pulsed gently, synchronizing with Leora's own biosignatures, as Elias gripped the controls with a mixture of awe and trepidation. Every system was alive, aware, and intimately connected to its passenger, a ship that was less a vehicle and more an extension of a civilization's very soul. The stars beyond the viewport blurred into elongated streaks as the vessel accelerated, breaking free from the planet's grasp and plunging into the silent infinity of space, where dangers lurked unseen and alliances were as fragile as stardust. Leora's mind intertwined with the ship's core, projecting visions and emotions into Elias's consciousness, fragments of history, echoes of an ancient war, and the unbearable weight of loss. The Ethrians had been more than explorers or conquerors. They were the galaxy's custodians, wielders of a power that balanced the scales between creation and destruction. Their technology was not forged merely for dominion, but as a sacred trust to protect the fragile weave of life and energy that threaded through the universe. Yet, such power had made them targets. The Clithery Empire, a brutal coalition of war-driven species, had waged relentless campaigns of extermination, hunting the Ethrians across star systems and erasing their worlds with cold efficiency. Leora's people had fallen victim not only to overwhelming force, but to betrayal from within, factions blinded by fear and ambition who had turned their weapons inward, fracturing their unity in the final hours. As the ship traversed starfields unknown to humanity, Elias was immersed in this torrent of memories and revelations. Nebulas swirled outside the viewport like cosmic storms of color and light, yet within the ship's sanctum, time seemed to fold and stretch, allowing Leora to relive the last desperate days of her civilization. He saw glimpses of the Ethrians' final stand, a celestial ballet of radiant energy and devastating weaponry, a clash of titanic forces that shook the foundations of reality itself. Entire star systems had been scorched into silence, their once vibrant suns extinguished by Clithery siege engines that fired beams of annihilation across vast distances. He witnessed the anguish of families torn apart, the sacrificial last flights of those who sought to preserve knowledge and hope in hidden sanctuaries. Above all, he felt the pervasive sorrow of a race that knew its end was inevitable yet refused to surrender the future to darkness. In the midst of these visions, Leora's voice reached out not as words, but as a resonant echo of purpose. "This ship carries the essence of our people," she conveyed, her thoughts threading through Elias's mind with the urgency of a dying star. Within its depths lies not only technology, but the seed of revival, a vault containing genetic memories, cultural wisdom, and the means to restore balance. But with such power comes responsibility. The Clithery seek to claim this vessel, to twist its gifts into weapons of subjugation. If they succeed, the galaxy will fall into an age of tyranny and despair. We must awaken the dormant allies, forge new bonds, and confront the darkness that hunts us. Elias absorbed her words with a mixture of reverence and fear. He was an explorer, a mortal man whose greatest battles had been against nature's extremes and the limits of human endurance. Now, he found himself thrust into the cosmic struggle of ancient forces, a key player in a war that spanned galaxies and epochs. The ship's AI, sentient and adaptive, responded to this newfound alliance, weaving defenses and protocols that shimmered with elegant complexity. Shield arrays hummed to life, quantum sensors scanned for cloaked adversaries, and hidden weapon systems blending bioorganic and energy-based technologies prepared for deployment. Elias's hands, though unfamiliar with such arcane systems, moved with growing confidence as Leora's guidance transformed him from a mere passenger into a commander. Days passed in a blur of star systems and information exchanges. The ship's archives revealed forgotten alliances and lost civilizations who had once stood alongside the Ethrians, custodians of ancient knowledge and keepers of peace. Leora shared fragments of star maps, pinpointing potential refuge worlds and dormant fleets scattered across the void. These were beacons of hope, but also fraught with danger. Many had succumbed to the Clithery's relentless purge, their last transmissions distorted by betrayal and desperation. Elias felt the crushing weight of command, the need to decide where to seek aid, whom to trust, and when to strike. The ship's organic hull pulsed softly beneath his fingers, a reminder that he was not alone in this journey. Leora was both guide and guardian, her presence a bridge between ancient legacy and present reality. The silence of space was shattered abruptly by a flare of alarm. The ship's sensors detected multiple high-speed vessels converging from the outer rim. Clithery hunters, sleek and deadly, cloaked in fields of distorted light that rendered them almost invisible until they struck. Elias's heart raced as the ship's defense systems roared to life. Energy shields shimmered into place, casting an ethereal glow over the bridge as weapon batteries powered up, firing pulses of charged particles and beams of coherent light. The battle that followed was a ballet of fire and shadow, a desperate dance of evasion and counterattack across the void. The Clithery ships were relentless, striking with precision and brutality, their weapons designed to disrupt the ship's bioorganic matrix. Amid the chaos, Leora's consciousness expanded, interfacing with the ship's systems on a level beyond human comprehension. She channeled energies that bent space-time, warping shields to absorb and reflect attacks, while Elias coordinated evasive maneuvers and counterstrikes. The bridge became a crucible of wills, a battleground where human ingenuity and alien wisdom fused into a singular force. Yet, despite their valiant defense, the Clithery were numerous and unyielding, their war tactics honed through centuries of conquest. In the final moments of the encounter, Elias faced a harrowing decision. The ship's core contained a fail-safe pulse capable of obliterating everything within a vast radius, a last resort to deny the enemy the vessel's secrets. Activating it would save the legacy, but doom them all. Hesitating risked capture and enslavement. Leora's voice pierced his mind with calm resolve. Trust in the future, Elias. The legacy is more than this ship. It is in us, and those who will rise. With a steely breath, Elias ordered a daring jump to hyperspace, a maneuver that bent the very fabric of space and time, tearing the ship free from the Clithery's grasp. The stars stretched into lines of pure light, and for a moment, the weight of despair lifted, replaced by the fragile hope that their fight was only beginning. As the ship emerged in a new sector of uncharted space, Elias looked to Leora, her eyes reflecting the infinite cosmos, and knew that the burden of choice was a path they would walk together, guardians of a legacy that might one day save a fractured galaxy. Chapter 4: Legacy of Stars and the Dawn of a New Era. The void of space stretched endlessly before them, a vast canvas of stars twinkling with the cold light of distant suns, silent witnesses to the unfolding saga of Elias Harrow and Leora, the last Etherian. The ship, once buried beneath the merciless sands of Adarix, now soared boldly through the cosmic ocean, a living relic charged with a mission that transcended time and mortality. The battles behind them were scars etched in memory, but the future shimmered with promise, fraught with uncertainty, yet alive with possibility. Together, man and alien had awakened not only an ancient vessel, but a sleeping giant of hope, the last spark of a civilization whose wisdom and power could reshape the destiny of galaxies. Within the ship's sanctum, Leora's consciousness flowed through the living core, a symphony of biotechnological grace and timeless knowledge. Her mind touched every fiber of the vessel, unlocking dormant systems, reactivating dormant fleets, and igniting networks of communication that pulsed like the heartbeat of the stars themselves. The archives she revealed to Elias were staggering in their scope, technologies that bent gravity and time, genetic blueprints of countless life forms, and philosophical treatises that questioned the very nature of existence and the responsibilities of power. This was not merely a ship. It was a crucible of evolution, a repository of a race that had sought harmony between all things. And now, it was theirs to steward. Elias, once a solitary explorer shaped by the harsh desert and the limits of humanity, had been transformed into a beacon of alliance and leadership. The weight of command settled on his shoulders with both gravity and grace, for he understood that the ship's fate was inseparable from his own and from the fragile hope of all sentient beings yearning for peace amid the chaos of the cosmos. His hands, steady despite the enormity of his task, danced across the ship's controls, learning the intricate language of living technology, forging bonds with forgotten allies, and planning their next moves in a galaxy rife with dangers both known and unseen. Through the ship's quantum communication arrays, Leora reached out to the scattered remnants of allied civilizations' worlds that had once stood with the Etherians against the tide of darkness. Messages traveled through the void like whispers of light, carrying the promise of resurgence and the call to arms against the encroaching menace of the Clithery. Some replies came as faint signals, echoes of hope from distant stars, while others remained shrouded in silence, lost in the wreckage of war and betrayal. Yet every response, every flicker of contact, wove together a tapestry of resistance that grew stronger with each passing moment. The ship's journey led them to a hidden sanctuary, a cluster of uncharted systems cloaked by the very technologies the Ethrians had left behind. Here, ancient fortresses floated in the darkness, bastions of knowledge and refuge where survivors tended to the flames of culture and science. Elias and Leora were welcomed not only as guests, but as harbingers of renewal. The inhabitants, diverse in form and spirit, shared stories of loss and resilience, their histories intertwining with the legacy carried aboard the living ship. In the great halls carved from crystalline rock and pulsating with bioorganic energy, they forged alliances that transcended race and history, uniting disparate peoples under a banner of hope and common purpose. But the shadows of war were never far behind. The Clithery, relentless and merciless, had traced the signal of the awakened ship across the stars, their fleets gathering like storm clouds on the horizon. These hunters were not mere soldiers, but an existential threat, wielding weapons of unimaginable destruction and strategies honed over millennia of conquest. Their arrival would mean devastation not only for Elias and Leora, but for the fragile coalition striving to reclaim peace and balance in a fractured galaxy. The weight of impending conflict pressed upon the alliance, igniting fires of urgency and courage. In response, Elias and Leora spearheaded a campaign of preparation and resistance, combining human ingenuity with Ethrian legacy. They revived forgotten technologies, blending organic and synthetic designs to create new defenses and weapons that could counter the Clithery's relentless advance. Training regimens melded ancient wisdom with modern tactics, forging a united front of warriors and diplomats alike. In the quiet moments between battles, Elias reflected on the profound transformation within himself, how the lonely desert explorer had become a leader of galactic significance, guided by a partnership that transcended species and time. Yet amidst the turmoil, moments of profound connection and revelation emerged. Leora shared the depths of Ethrian philosophy, teaching Elias the delicate balance between power and humility, creation and destruction. Together, they pondered the nature of legacy, how the choices they made would ripple through generations yet unborn. Their bond deepened beyond alliance, rooted in shared purpose and mutual respect, a testament to the possibility of unity amid diversity. It was a love forged not in ease but in the crucible of survival and hope. The decisive confrontation came beneath the radiant light of a dying star, where the Alliance met the Clithery in a battle that shook the very fabric of space. The living ship danced through the void, its hull shimmering with bioluminescent shields, while Elias and Leora commanded their forces with a blend of strategic brilliance and unyielding courage. The conflict was brutal and relentless, a clash of ancient legacies and ruthless ambition. Yet, through sacrifice and resolve, the coalition turned the tide, shattering the Clithery's grip and securing a fragile peace. As silence returned to the cosmos, Elias stood upon the ship's observation deck, gazing out at the stars with Leora beside him. The desert sands of Adarix were far behind, replaced by the boundless promise of the universe. Together, they had awakened not only a ship but a future, a legacy of hope, unity, and the enduring power of life itself. The journey was far from over, but the dawn of a new era had begun, written among the stars and carried in the hearts of those who dared to dream.